6 o'clock. Thank you for coming. You see you're elected here. This forum was set up basically. Mayor Angie's been having one in Michigan City, and I thought I'd try it. I went to hers, and it's going to be a very loose agenda. If we could start by everyone standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Mike, will you lead us? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah. Thank you. If you have any phones, please silence them so we don't have any disturbances. This will be a very loose style. Talking with Mayor Angie said that's the best. In the meetings I've had before with our township, that's the easiest way to have them. Please, if you can come to the podium, please come to the podium with your question. If not, wait for Drew to bring you the microphone so you don't have to get up if it's easier for you to stay in your seat. Please state your name. We'll give you 3 minutes to ask your question or make your comment. If you have a preference, a specific one of us up here to answer your question, please state their name so they can, and then possibly after that we might be able to add more from each of us to address other issues. Let's begin. I'd like to have everyone here introduce themselves and tell them what their position is. I'm Commissioner Steve Hollifield. I'm the Vice President of Commission. Adam
Kronka, County Council President and at-large council member.
Mike Rosenbaum, former councilman, now county auditor.
Connie Grammarosa, LaPorte County Commissioner and the President of the Commission.
Joe Haney, LaPorte County Commissioner for District 3. Microphone. Joe Haney, LaPorte County Commissioner for District 3.
Justin Keel, LaPorte County Councilman for District 1.
We also have some other elected out there in department heads. If you choose, please state your name.
Mike Poland, Building Commissioner.
Heather Stevens, Clerk. Ella Bilderbeck, County Recorder.
John Maxwell, County Surveyor.
Dakota Euler, Weights and Measures Inspector.
I think that takes care of everybody. Thank you. A lot of people always ask questions. They need to get the truth, and they can ask us the answers here now and get it straight from our horse's mouth instead of going to social media and get a bunch of wannabe hopefulies. So let us begin. If anybody has a question, please come forward. Okay.
Okay, I'm Kathy Callan, and I'm at 2565 North Pinebrook Drive, LaPorte, in Pinebrook Subdivision. And I've got a neighbor a couple doors down that has 20 to 30 junk cars, trucks, whatever, out in his yard. And I'm sure I shouldn't say I'm sure, because I haven't been on his property to check, but I really don't know that any of them are actually licensed. And I'd like to know what I can do about this. He's a little bit older than I am, and I know he's not in good health. I believe his children, his older children and grandchildren have just dumped everything there, probably to work on it sometime, but they've been out there for 30 plus years.
Ooh.
Some of them not quite as long, but I've been out there for over 30 years, and the collection just gets bigger. So they're not on the street, they're on his property, right out in front of his house for everybody to look at if they want to.
The way I understand it, they have to be plated and insured and actually drivable and movable. Mr. Poland, could you answer that possibly?
Yes, sir.
Right off the bat, question number one.
This was going to come up, so I figured I should stop in and check it out. So myself and also the sheriff's office received these complaints. We'll start off by sending a letter, and we'll attempt to contact the resident and work with them. Sometimes
he's a nice man. He's just not in good health. But
right.
He's
and
being taken advantage of.
We'll take all of that stuff into consideration. If we find that there's an ordinance on the books that's they're in violation of, we'll send multiple notices, and if need be, we can escalate it from there. But we like to start off by attempting to contact and find out what their intentions are and see if we can get it remedied. Generally, you're not supposed to start a junkyard in a residential area. Some people like to have 6, 7 cars in their driveway, but they're all plated and they're all usable. That's one thing. But if they're not on the driveway, they're out in the grass, they're leaking fluids in the ground, and you're in residential zoning, you're not zoned to be a junkyard. Don't be a junkyard. Don't start a junkyard, and then you won't have to see me or the sheriff. So contact my office, the building department, and we'll get started on it for you.
All right, I'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else up here have a comment or anything? Oh, no, you can sit down, ma'am. If
Thanks, Mike.
Good evening,
evening.
Councilman. I've titled this Neighborhood Problem. I also live in the Pine Brook subdivision.
Your name, ma'am, please?
Jane Daly.
Okay, thank you.
Our family moved to LaPorte County in 1978, and we bought a house in the Pine Brook subdivision. We fell in love with the neighborhood and raised 5 boys there and always took care of our property. And since 2016, I have been asking the county for help with one of our neighbors who deals with scrap. Now, fast forward to today, and we have a person who also keeps livestock and has filled his yard with junk, and a person who started a car repair business, and a person who has how many cars unlicensed in his, and this is the same.
Same neighborhood?
Yes. This is a single-family area, and we need your help to bring this neighborhood back to where it should be. And so I encourage you to pass this, the Code and Enforcement Ordinance that was drafted in 2017. I believe that this needs to happen if you want to restore the tranquility of LaPorte County and for it to become a destination for businesses and families. That's all I have to say. We've been in contact with Mr. Poland and his mother, and they have sent letters to one of these properties is right directly across the street from us. And over the years, they have sent them letters, cease and desist, and it just has progressively gotten worse. They built a fence around part of their property, filled it. Now the fence is falling down. Then they filled their backyard, and now it's spilling around to the front yard. So we're elderly, and we may want to sell our house one day, and we're going to have to take a huge loss on it. So we need your help. Please help us.
In 2017, when they tried the code enforcement, I was here at the meeting, this room was packed.
I know there was some remonstrators, and I've
Yes.
talked to Mr. Haney about that, and he thought that it was because there was some gun language in this ordinance. So I have the ordinance, and I've read it over. There's nothing in there about guns. There's something about noise, but not about guns. So I don't know what the remonstration was about, but
Yeah. So that came on the heels of a previous ordinance attempt to restrict firearms in LaPorte County, and that was what many residents viewed, including myself, was a backdoor way to ban shooting again in LaPorte County, as another attempt to do that. So one of the things that we've been trying to work on is that both through the building department, our health department, as well as the sheriff's department and the trustee, they each have different things that they can work on. So, for example, the trustee's office is tasked with, if you're in a residential neighborhood, you have grass that's overgrown, the trustee can take action to do some of that enforcement separate from, let's say, the building department and the health department. When you look at some of that vermin issues, for example, then you can bring in the health department. We're talking about junk cars, that falls squarely is something that's enforceable by the sheriff's office, and scrap obviously enforceable by the building commission. There's a number of different aspects to attack this, and over the past couple of years, under the direction of our new building commissioner, who was appointed right after I took office, there's been a lot more enforcement action that's taken place and a lot more cleaning up that's happened. And I think as we continue to develop these policies, because the laws for all this are already on the book. Most of the stuff that bothers everybody, the laws are already on the book. It's just making sure that
and I've
all
read
the
some of
different
the other ordinances, and I do see that the laws are on the books about some of these things that we're talking about.
And it's just trying to get, I think, some of these departments, as well as some of the elected folks, for example, in the townships that should be doing more, let's say, than they should. And some of our township trustees are amazing, so I'm not casting any aspersions here. It's just some of them I don't know are fully up to speed on just what all their duties is aside from poor relief. They have other duties, and part of that is some of the stuff you're talking about as well. So I'm hopeful that given some of the resolution we've seen in other areas, I know some things are going slow, and I know I've talked with Janet at our building commissioner's office as well about one specific issue that you came to me with. Letters have gone out, and I'm not sure exactly administratively where we're at in that process at this exact moment, but we're in a much better position now than we were in 2017. I'll say that.
If you need pictures, I have pictures. I have an email and a draft ready to send. I have all of your email addresses. If you
please do.
need to see those.
Yeah, we'll forward them on to Mike's office then.
Yeah, please do.
No, Mike's the first go-to.
I have his email
Oh,
address.
do you?
too,
Okay.
Yeah. I got you all.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes, Mike, anybody else?
Nope.
Good evening. I'll speak after her. This is my wife.
Oh, so you're Mr.
So
Day.
I'll expand on what she said a little bit. The house across the street is a pernicious, I don't know what to say. It's terrible. There's all kinds of junk, old appliances, old cars that don't run, windshields broken out. There's 2 cars that sit in the front yard. Windshields are broken out. The windshields are covered with tarps. The tarps are held with scrap tires. Now, and those are just a couple of scrap tires. There's many, many more. We all know that scrap tires and old washing machines and plastic bottles and tin cans, they fill up with stagnant water, and then we got mosquito problems. If you look at mosquitoes in the Midwest, they carry 2 kinds of viruses and 3 kinds of encephalitis. These people have been known to burn scrap wire, burn the insulation off of it, which emits, if you look it up, it emits a poisonous gas. It's terrible. Now, to be fair, Mr. Pollack, the fire chief for Cool Spring Township, he lives in our subdivision. He's been there several times, and I think he's kind of put a lid on that. So, property values are a problem. We're old. We're in our 80s. We got a 4-bedroom house, an acre and a half. We want to sell it and downsize. We need the cash to sustain ourselves as we get older, and we're going to have to take a hit because of property values. Not to mention the health issues, noise, dogs barking. We've had problems with them. Dogs that bark constantly. They get small motors, and they tinker around with those and repair them, and then every once in a while they start one that doesn't have a muffler on it. You should come by when that's going on. So, and then, there's wider impacts too. This is not just, it affects us directly, but this has a drag on the whole county. You have economic impacts that are going to be drugged down because, well, we've got this data center over here. We've got 2 tracking in Michigan City. Both of those things are projected to draw thousands of people. And if people in the data counting, they're going to be educated, engineers, computer technicians and so forth. Are they going to want to come over here and live in LaPorte County if they see that kind of stuff going on? Or are they going to go over to Granger? They can go either way. Double tracking is supposed to bring 8,000 people into the northern LaPorte County, which is where we're at. We're in Cool Spring Township.
Well,
So, but look at what's happening here in LaPorte. Mayor Dermody has, instituted this, he's cracked down on that kind of stuff. And LaPorte's booming. You drive down Pine Brook Avenue, and there's all kinds of new businesses down there. There's new townhouses in the back there behind Alice Chalmers. There's townhouses going up off of Seavers Road. So, I think there might be a connection there between the economic prosperity and whether or not we're addressing these kind of nuisance properties. So, we've been working with the county for a long time. We talked at length with Randy Novak, Mr. Poland, Mr. Poland's mother, and we'd like you to enforce the ordinances that are there. They're there.
They are. There's plenty of ordinances.
All you have to do is enforce them, and that's why you guys are here, to do that. But we've been told that the sheriff can't do it because he doesn't have the manpower and the county doesn't have the money to hire more people. Well, I see in the Westville Indicator the county's budget. And it's published in there, I don't know, 2-3 times a year. And there's hundreds of line items there. There's $3 million, I think, in the county budget, if I'm not mistaken. I might be off on that. But there's a lot of things that get paid for. And it's really, gentlemen, at the end of the day, it's a matter of priorities. Where are your priorities? That's where you're going to, the higher the priority is, the more it gets addressed. So, okay, that's all. I guess I really didn't ask a question, but.
No, you got your point across, though.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just like to say is what Joe said, what Mike said. We already have the ordinances in place. Back in my neighborhood out there around Fish Lake, this is right after Sheriff Rose stepped down, or didn't step down, but he was no longer in office. There was a big push, and the sheriff's department cleaned up a lot of junk cars in the community. So I know the budget times were a lot different back then. Code enforcement is not going to be a cheap option. And be careful what you wish for is my position. So anybody else got anything? Tommy, it's
Yeah,
yours.
this is Tommy Kolovic from 1316 Ohio Street. I'm a Michigan City man. My family also owns property at 7733 West, 125 North, LaPorte, Indiana, around off Wozniak Road, across from the Applewood subdivision where we've been for the last 32 years. A couple of things I want to talk about, kind of city related and kind of relates to the county, is we need to some way at the county level we can establish a compost site in Michigan City. We can take our excess compost. I know Vince Sherman, he does an excellent job of running the site of Ziegler Road. He's got the one pile you can bring your brush and one pile you can bring your leaves. Last fall, the city, they won't let us use the compost site on Hitchcock. They won't let the residents go out there anymore. I think it was an IDEM issue. I think they're talking about establish one kind of by the fire training center there. But, we don't have anywhere to take our yard waste. So they only allow us so much that they're going to pick up, every refuse day they're doing the pickup day. They got to have it in cans. And the only thing we can do is just put it out at the curb and it just sits there around the city. The other thing is, this is a LaPorte County solid waste. I know you're on the solid waste, but I actually applied for the recent opening on the Citizens Advisory Committee for the solid waste. But I think we made a really big blunder back in 2009 when we transitioned the little red bins to the light blue recycling receptacles. You issued the recycling receptacle to every single household in the city, and not every household in the city does recycling. What they do is they take all their refuse and they just stuff it full. You can't even close the lid. They set it out in the alley, and the city refuse department does not pick that up on trash day. I think that's something that you really need to crack down on and start fining people on that. The other thing, this is a county-related issue, and this goes back to Commissioner Rich Mosinski's property maintenance ordinance. Like you mentioned, he tried pushing in 2017. This is a lot of by my mom's house. I want to talk about all the dilapidated and messed up like old farmhouses and barns and sheds that are around the county. We got one right up the road from my mom's house. Randy Novak, he lives at the opposite end of my mom's road. They're on 125 North. Back in 2014, this is the one that actually got raided by the LaPorte County Sheriff's Office, because that was when Mr. Offsky was building his letter bombs there. These actually have an effect on the tax revenue. I did read an ordinance regarding the vacant structures a little bit ago to the county council. I think you and Commissioner Grammarosa were there. There's another one right out, an old dilapidated barn just totally collapsed down. It's at 1 Wozniak, and I think it's 150 North, right there where you turn after go to the toll road. You got a lot of those around the county. We don't have, why isn't there like a LaPorte County Board of Works and Public Safety like we have in Michigan City and LaPorte that they kind of take care of these on? I don't know. You go down to Hamilton County where you got all the Carmel, Fishers, Noblesville, Westfield, cities like Zionsville, Avon, say where all the rich people live. You don't see that there. There in LaPorte County, that seems like we really just don't care about it. The other thing I just want to mention is, your behavior at the meetings. There are people, all your meetings, they're put on the Access LaPorte County's YouTube channel, and there are people from outside LaPorte County that are actually watching these meetings. These are the people like I mentioned, Carmel and Fishers and Noblesville and Westfield and Columbus, and our dignitaries down on that Indiana. They're what? And these are the people with the deep pockets, and they're the people that are gonna come and make LaPorte County and Michigan City and LaPorte and Westville and Wanata and Rolling Prairie and all our other profit and thrive. And when they see how you behave at these meetings, it's really embarrassing, and it's a really turnoff to them. And that's just kind of the things I wanted to talk about and mention to you. And I might show up some more of your meetings, maybe give some of my public service announcements. Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy. Hey, if you could email me those addresses, I'll get them passed on about those buildings.
Okay.
Yep. So, Mike, you know where I'll be talking to. Anybody here have a?
I would think that when it comes to the concern about the refuse site somewhere else in the county besides the one that's just outside of LaPorte is something that's probably more covered with the Solid Waste District Board, something that you can liaison for as part of that.
Yeah.
Being the fact that they've got their own funding and grant work that
Yeah,
can help fund that.
I'll bring that up to Clay Turns the next meeting.
But as a whole, and with the, even the, whether that's a avenue through the Plan Commission or if it's just as us, as two high-ranking bodies within the county, working to support other avenues besides just a code enforcement department. Maybe there's other ways we can do through different events to possibly start to curtail some of the waste in the yards, the scrap that we're talking about on a number of different occasions and stuff that we witness all the time. Folks tend to prefer county living for the fact that there's that more, I don't want to call it more liberal, but more less looked upon condition.
Relaxed. Yeah.
Relaxed condition. And it gets a little out of hand. So how do we handle it without dropping a $5 million line item per year for code enforcement or something of that nature in order to accelerate cleanup and then encourage it, encourage a little bit of pride, because as we start to enforce it, it starts to take the folks that are slipping as a result of watching things slide in their neighborhood to then become more prideful of what's going on around them and clean up the minor slipping of the cleanup and waste that's in their yards. So I think it's a good starting point for some kind of brainstorming and ideas. I don't know.
Anyone else? Sir?
My name is Robert Kurtich. I live in the same neighborhood as Jane and Dave right there. And you heard all the complaints about the neighborhood, about the junk in the yards and so forth. But I have a question concerning how they collect this trash. So they collect it, they recycle it, and they sell it. So if they're selling it, my question is it a business? And if it's a business, they should be paying taxes and stuff on that, correct?
Would that be the Solid Waste Board? Are you talking about the garbage pickup and the recycling curbside?
I'm talking about the neighborhood.
The neighborhood. Oh, yeah, they would. They're making money. The scrappers, as far as I'm concerned, is a business.
They're making money at it. So if they're making money at it, is it a business? If it's a business, do they have to have a license for it? If they have to have a license for it, then they have to pay taxes.
Do we have a business
If they don't have that, we shut them down.
Back to you, Mike.
You volunteered to come tonight.
That's a good question, sir. As far as being a scrapper, an independent contractor, I doubt that they claim their profits or their taxes on it, and I don't actually know what the law is locally, statewide, or federally on scrapping as it relates to a home occupation or a business. So that's something that maybe we can look into. I know that we receive complaints about scrappers. We send letters, and then they'll say, well, we're waiting for the scrap prices to go up, and we're going to clean it up. And then they'll clean it up, and then it starts over again, and then we start the letters again, and then they clean it up, and then we start the letters again. It's a vicious circle that goes on and on. My predecessor, my mother, went through the same thing. You work with people, you finally get it cleaned up, and then it starts all over again, and you got to start the letters again.
This is in a residential neighborhood.
Yes.
It's not
Right, right. Yeah, I understand. The question about whether scrapping is a business or not, I can't answer that right now.
Okay.
That's something that maybe we could have our legal team look into. Now, as far as, even if we had code enforcement, that would still be you need to know, do they require a license for that? That's a legal question. St. Joe County passed a code enforcement ordinance, and they funded it with $300,000, and they hired a staff. What we have is a couple of volunteers. We have building inspectors that double as code enforcement, and we have an office person that sends letters. So we don't quite have what other counties have, but we work with what we have. We attempt to make contact with properties that are the subject of complaints. We try to get them to clean it up. We take in complaints from everywhere, even if it's not within our jurisdiction, and then we disperse it out. Okay, we'll decide, is this going to go to Army Corps? Is this going to go to IDEM? Is this going to go to DNR? Is this going to go to the health department about the mosquitoes in West Nile and whatnot? So we'll take everything in our department, we'll look at it, and we'll send it where it needs to go, or we'll send the letters ourselves and we'll try to deal with it ourselves. Not everything that people feel is a code enforcement violation is in fact a violation. If somebody has a tarp on their roof, or somebody has 7 cars in their driveway, that's not necessarily a violation. So that happens too. There's also things that predate our ordinances. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, but that's one of the reasons why I'm here tonight, to listen to what you all have to talk about and to respond to it and to answer your questions to the best of my ability, to the best of our ability, and the questions that we can't answer about whether a license is required for scrapping. I don't know the answer to that. I wish I did. One of us will find out for you, and we'll go from there.
Then I have another issue concerning it also, because on the west side of the property, they have it fenced off. And inside this fence, there's a bunch of junk, scrap, and so forth, but it's all grown up with foliage and all that kind of stuff. So could this be a health issue?
I would think the health
I
department,
mean-
because you've got vermins in there.
But there's been people out there, there's people that's come out there and looked and so forth and made them dump water out of containers and all that kind of stuff, but the stuff continues to go on, it never stops. But, I mean, I live right there, and there could be rodents, pests, all kinds of stuff. So it's something to check into.
If you can take pictures, if you see creatures rolling around in and out of there and stuff like that, take pictures to document.
I didn't know that would be legal if I'd come in here and present a picture to you and say, this is what it looks like. Well, I could be, something could happen to me for taking a picture of their property. That's why I haven't taken any.
If you're on your property, I don't think so.
But I'm taking it
I'm
into
also,
their property.
but I'm also not a lawyer, so,
They got a fence right there, and I can look over the fence and see it.
yeah.
As long as it's something that's in plain view.
Sorry, I can't hear.
If it's something that's, this isn't official legal advice, but my understanding is that as long as it's in plain view from either your property or the public street, a public location, or your own property, if it's in plain view, then there's no issue with there'd be no issue with taking a photograph of that.
The more things you can document to make your case to either Mike or to the health department will help us enforce what codes we do have.
A health hazard, I really do.
And as far as the businesses, this day and age, they've made it very, very easy for people to make a living without paying any income tax like the rest of us do, and I'm on board with you on that. I do believe I'm tired of those types of people
Shut
too.
them down. They're making money.
Oh yeah,
Shut them down.
the radio station LaPorte on their show Tradio. Once I called in and talked to Dennis after hours one day, I told him, I says, you know what? They're getting $200 a car. They do a couple cars a day, 7 days a week. That's an awful lot of unearned income.
That's right.
And people are making a living like that, and those people should not be making a living like that, in my
They
opinion.
collect check every day. Truck
Exactly.
comes in
It's
every day.
cash.
At night they collect it. It comes in every day. Recycle, recycle, recycle.
For what it's worth, he's talking about the same property that my wife and I talked about. She has pictures that she's going to send you right after the meeting. So, and we could walk up there and take a picture across the fence and send that to him as well. So, I would just like one more comment. Mm-hmm. I understand that you said that code enforcement is expensive, and I would just posit to you that maybe the benefits of improved economic growth with people coming in from the data center and coming in from Chicago to live out here would increase your tax base not to mention the fines that you're going to reap that would, help to offset those costs. So,
Well, we're all about raising the tax base, but as far as the issue of cost, we got Justin on the council, Adam from the council. You guys, as far as starting a new department up?
I mean, at this point, right now, we're trying to regroup with what's going on with the state level, having changed legislation about what we can collect in terms of property taxes and so forth. And with that, also looking at what we can do in terms of being able to support our current employees when it comes to raises that haven't happened in the last couple of cycles, that we have to take care of them because of just like everybody else has faced, we've seen a lot of increased costs of living, and we need to be able to support that in order to continue to get good work out of our employees. So that's our focus, to be able to maintain a stable, working, functional government with the reduced funding that we have, and then we can consider further growth on what we can offer in terms of services and enforcement, in my opinion. Justin, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would just add that building a department that was purely based off of fines to fund it could be kind of risky because it could create a department that was going out and specifically looking to target people rather than solve the problem. They're trying to raise revenue in order to pay for their salaries. That might lead to undesirable outcomes, but yeah, I think it's something worth exploring. I know we have a lot of pressing budget issues to deal with, so, but it's worth talking about. Mr. Pullen, given the amount of interest in this particular topic, could you give us an update along the way about how the enforcement process is going, just so that we're apprised of as things progress?
Yes, sir. I actually have some good news. I actually have some good news on the unsafe building part. So this is the most egregious violations, right? Some of the ones that are lesser, it's harder to prove. We don't have a Starsky and Hutch that can sit out there and do a sting operation. So we need to have sufficient evidence that there's a compliance issue or a violation of an ordinance before we can take action. We just can't take the word of feuding neighbors. We have placed liens on properties that we condemn that we have to tear down, and we were having a problem previously with those getting sold on a certificate sale, and then we lose that revenue, and we're not getting it back, and then we're not able to keep, and it really slows us down. But lately, we have been getting collecting our liens, and it allows us, hey, now we can do 2 more. We can condemn 2 more. We can tear down 2 more. So as long as we keep that up, we can keep funding that operation, and we can keep going forward. But if we fall back into a situation where we're putting liens on properties and then it gets sold on a certificate sale and we're not recouping what we're spending out, then it becomes a problem. So I don't know if I sufficiently answered your question, but we'll keep you posted on the updates on the code enforcement. I know it's a group effort. The sheriff does at least have one guy that he sends out sometimes to deal with junk cars. I know the health department has health officers. They will go out, and if they see standing water, if they see breeding mosquitoes, nobody wants West Nile. They're out there. They're looking for the stuff. They're limited on what they can do. They can't just go on private property and throw flashbangs in the windows. They need to really take steps that are within the boundaries of the law and what their legal jurisdiction is. And from someone who came into this from the private sector, believe me, I know how slow government is. I know how fragmented government is. I know how frustrating government is. Someone told me it was designed that way on purpose. But we do try to make a collaborative effort to talk to one another within the departments, the health department and us, the sheriff's department and us, IDEM and us. We refer cases to each other all the time. We back each other up. I know it's not always enough, but we're doing that, and we're trying. Thanks.
Thank you.
Ma'am, your turn.
Hi, my name is Sophie, and I live in Orchard Estates, which is just across Wozniak Road from Pine Brook. But my complaint is for the past 8 to 10 years. There's been a section of property that some gentleman said that he owns, but I believe he's been in prison for a long time. Never built a house or anything. He has a van parked down into the bushes, And he has what appears to be maybe an outhouse. I don't know. I have not been down there. I've only seen it from the street. And as of 2 years ago, he had over 12 cats in and out. I don't know if he feeds the cats or what, but there are children in my neighborhood, and they do walk around, ride their bike. I would hate for them to go down there and see this, for one, and if there are cats down there, they could be breeding whatever, and if there's cats, there could be something else down there. So I just wanted you to know that that's going on. We have tried to get somebody to come out. I don't think there's a license plate on the vehicle that's there. Like I said, I haven't gone down there to look.
Is there someone living there?
No.
No.
From what I understand, the gentleman that either owns the property, he said he did, but has been in prison. That's all I know about that.
Do you know the address?
Yeah.
You know, I don't. He had a mailbox there.
You get addresses on either side or one side?
Diane Drive?
No.
Aware of it?
It's Diane.
Diane Drive?
Yes.
Three of us. Sheriff's Department's been out there. Health Department's been out there. I've been out there. Someone was taken out of there in cuffs and arrested. Some of the cats were dealt with. I think there's still a van there, and I think there's still some cats.
Yeah. How long ago?
We've been dealing with that site for at least a year, probably longer. Letters and, you know,
Who do you send the letters to?
the property owner.
And you know who that is?
Not off the top of my head, but Diane Drive, I know that, the van down by the
Yeah.
river or down by, with the cats, I'm
Yeah,
aware of
there's a
it.
creek back
Yeah.
there. It's wetland behind.
Yeah, we've been out there. Like I said, we took one guy out. He went to jail. We got some of the cats. I think there's still a van down there. I hope there's
There
not
is.
somebody down there living in it, but
There is.
you know, just
Okay, I just
keep
wanted to
keep
be
it keep it
aware.
coming, and we'll keep
Yeah.
we'll keep up our efforts.
Because there's another house out there that looks abandoned. Every once in a while, somebody comes and cuts their grass, but she has thrown a sofa out on the side, and it's disintegrating or whatever. So, and like Jane and David and everybody else say, you know, it's bad for the community, and it's bad for us if you want to sell your house. And I just wanted to let you know what's going on, and hopefully we can take care of the guy that's been in jail.
Thank you for letting us know. That's step one. Coming out here, letting us know.
Yeah.
You know, and we were talking before this. It's you know, letting us know rather than just going on Facebook. We might not even know about it. So and we do know about Diane Drive, but keep it up. Keep letting us know, because there's 300 plus cases of these. So if we send a letter and then we don't hear a complaint for a while, we're like, oh, it's fixed. They cleaned it up. But if they didn't, we need to keep knowing about it, and we need to keep putting attention on it.
I
So
will definitely, you know,
And-
because
Yes.
with the children around there riding their bikes and stuff, if somebody should, one of those kids should fall off their bike, fall into that area.
understood. Thank you for coming out tonight. Send us pictures, send us evidence, contact us, and we'll keep up our efforts. Thank you.
I can assure you all, I talk to Mike at least probably twice a week or more. Usually by the time I get out the name of the street, he's aware of which situation it is. So Mike's on the ball. He knows these things going on. But like I said, the more you let us know, the more information, it makes his job and our jobs easier, and the police force's job easier also. Do you have any other questions? This ought to be good.
Greetings. Dion Bergeron, 1018 Providence Street, Michigan City. There's actually a lot of things that I want to address, but since there's pending litigation, there's some stuff that I can't. That said, I would like to direct my first question towards Councilman Keel. Have you received an apology yet from Commissioner Hollifield regarding the issue during the meeting?
He's not said anything to me since then.
Okay, that was my question. Without getting all silly, we can work together better. I know you guys can. I've seen it. The last meeting, right before this, was phenomenal. It really went well. I was genuinely impressed. I came expecting more insanity, but everyone did a really, really good job, and I was genuinely impressed. And it shows that we as a county, whether we agree or disagree with various policies, stances, or people, I know you guys can do better. You showed it. My second question is there a plan, given that the three commissioners are supposed to genuinely be equal representatives, is there a plan to redistribute the way that things have been handed out, be it via liaison positions, boards, et cetera? Because there's definitely a skew.
I look at that as when department heads and other groups come together and say, we prefer not to have certain people on our boards. I look at that and weigh that.
So no. Got it. Okay.
Say no.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's
your opinion.
Okay. My last question for this, or it's more of a comment. I'm really glad that you held this. I think it's really important for us to have more events like this. I think that a lot of people have questions and concerns, and this is a much better format because we have a variety of people here. So thank you for doing this, and I hope that you intend to hold more in the future.
I hope to have one in the Michigan City area, one in South County, and then one in East County. I mean, it's not going to be monthly meetings, but I mean quarterly or something.
Okay.
And
all
then
right. Yeah.
if there's a need for more, I'm more than willing to put these together. I think it's a great idea. I attended a seminar, I don't know what you'd call it, seminar, town hall meeting from Frank Mervan this morning, or this at lunch. Tommy Kolovic was there in Michigan City. It was great to talk to them and get their ideas out, and took some information that we hope will help the county go.
Okay. All right. Great. As regards to the issue that the other people were talking about, I know it's very difficult for you as commissioners and council members, et cetera, to address issues like this while still respecting property rights. It's one of the hard lines that we have to walk. I hope, my heart goes out to you, and I hope we can get it fixed. I hope that the law is already on the books, will be enforced. But I would urge our elected officials to consider rights versus additional laws, additional concerns, things like that. So
I'm a firm believer. We've got plenty of laws already.
Exactly.
We need to enforce the correct ones.
Right.
And the personal property rights, yes, that's very issue because the solar company, last 2 years, that's been a topic, hot topic. I took the reins on that in our community, our neighborhood. We have to be careful about allowing them the right to do what they want their land, but you also cannot infringe as what's happening with their properties.
On
you can't
your
infringe on
neighbors.
their rights, yes.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Dion. I appreciate that. There obviously is a skew on the distribution and the representation. The 3rd District of LaPorte County is obviously not seeing a fair distribution of those assignments and positions, which, I understand, as the minority member, it's easy to enforce a vendetta, that's fine, but it is discouraging to hear lies promulgated that, a department head doesn't want to work with somebody when that's simply not the case. It's unfortunate that we result to those sort of things. It's simply enough that, 2 to 1 you're outvoted, that's fine, but to present falsehoods, that's just totally inappropriate. Thank you.
On a completely separate note from that, going towards more of the property rights stuff and the process relative to the building commission. So, having been a former member of the Board of Zoning Appeals, right, part of that process is I've experienced something similar. One that comes to mind is out in the northeast part of the county, out in, I believe, is Galena Township. Probably 25 defunct snowmobiles and a very angry property owner. He was not pleased when he walked out, and it was pretty evident that he wasn't going to respond to the continual escalating of a fine that could lead to further, I wouldn't call it prosecution, but definitely escalating in terms of levels of enforcement thereafter. So there is a process, and there is a joint zoning ordinance that helps to process this. The only thing that we aren't armed with is a fleet of code enforcement officers with the ability to do so on a very frequent basis.
It takes time with what staff we have, and they're going in 10 different directions every day.
Good evening. Tim Stabos, the former LaPorte County Auditor. I didn't really have any intention on or have anything specific to speak about, although there are some outstanding issues still. But as I was sitting here listening, something came to mind that I think would be very healthy discussion that I'd ask you to entertain as a panel. We, to the degree we have the president of the commission and the vice president, the auditors here, and president of the council, former vice president, I believe, of the council, correct, Mr. Keel, and all three commissioners, of course. It seems to me, as the auditor, and I often hesitated to may shock you to chime in on some of these things because the council was the fiscal body and I was their servant assistant. But it seems like that there's almost a crisis of sorts in the county around this issue of contracting. And I'm just, again, to the degree we've got two councilmen here and the whole body of the commission, it seems like a wonderful opportunity to discuss the relevant considerations around the roles of council versus commission. We had Councilman Novak at the last council meeting say that the commission is the entity that contracts, and I've always felt personally that as we were taught as children in grade school, that the U.S. Congress, the president proposes a budget, and the U.S. Congress, has the power of the purse to dispose of that and to use their power, that type of checks and balance. So I'm kind of curious. This is kind of a question for all of you, and hopefully a spur for healthy discussion around. We had issues around, what constitutes an emergency and what the statutes say, and it's like more of the same kind of that dates back into, well back into the beginning of my term when I was auditor. I'm kind of curious to just see a healthy debate and discussion around how the three commissioners feel. As I got two powerful or leading council members here of what each of your roles are. And how you view working together. That do you feel that they have the right, the commissioners, that they have the right to say, look, we got the power of the purse, and this one's no, or that's overstepping? I'm kind of curious to see. It's a very open-ended question, but to see kind of a healthy discussion here, if you're interested, between and amongst y'all, as Guy would say, between and amongst y'all, on. What the law is and how you view tradition and this whole area. So if you want to go somewhere with that,
As
fine.
far as what contract, I mean,
Contracting
I don't quite understand
and the
the whole
power of the
concept.
purse of the council, and are you okay with the council setting restrictions that say we want to see every contract that's 10,000 or more? We want to be able to approve those before they're done, or 25, or just the whole area of
There's
contracting.
state laws we follow now, and we also have to abide by those. And then as what happened with the sewer project that you're talking about, that was deemed an emergency, and we had two qualified lawyers that actually passed the bar and give us the advice that we did what was necessary. So anybody else want to discuss
I think
that?
lawyers are supposed to pass the bar, so I'm not sure that that's really that
so
impressive.
I would take their advice over
in
someone
its own
else.
right. I mean, lawyers are supposed to pass the
So
bar.
I would take their advice over someone else.
But if there's any comments from the councilman or Councilman Keel about that specific act, I was hoping for an open-ended discussion. It sounds like this is turning into something defensive.
No, we can talk about an open-ended discussion. I'm not being defensive at all.
I know I've had discussions with you, Adam, before you came in as president around plans and intentions, maybe a more robust council that was going to put things through the ringer more, or examine things more, and not just defer to the commission. So anyways,
Let me
open for discussion.
Council.
Or not.
I mean, this is more, I'll just say, I think that this is more of a town hall meeting. This is really to discuss the issues that the public may have, questions that they have for us, not for a past politician to come in here and try to create chaos amongst the council and the commission.
I think you're barking up the wrong tree now, Commissioner.
Well,
I'm a member of the public now, and I have just as much rights as anyone else.
but I'm
So
not
for you to
trying
make
to
that
take
comment
that,
is out of line,
sir.
ma'am.
I'm not
And it's
trying.
offensive.
Well, again, what you're doing is you're looking for
Don't
us.
tell me what I'm
you're
doing.
trying to look.
I'm bringing up a question. Don't tell me what I'm trying
You
to
asked
do.
your question. If
Okay.
you'd let us discuss it, we will.
Well, I'm getting these accusations that I'm somehow trying to do something.
I am saying that this is a town hall meeting.
Yes, and I'm a
the
participant in the town hall, Mrs.
Our
Grammarosa.
intention
Let's
was.
move on and discuss. We can have open discussion with that. So you've asked your question. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So to sort of answer it from my perspective, if you don't mind, I've tried, as president of the council, I've worked with the commissioners on trying to present ideas and look at it collaboratively, understanding entirely that my role as council is to fund it or to not fund it or to find funding. But in order for good government to work, in my opinion, is for us to work as two separate gears within a machine to where we're meshing together to come up with, let's say, a plan of approach of how things want to work. The Board of Commissioners have an agenda, right? How do we want to deal with road funding? How do we want to deal with funding of, let's say, a code enforcement or a building commission? And with that, how do we make that align with what we have for limitations on funding, whether that be grants, whether that be tax base, whether that be additional taxes, whether that be other user fees. And if we can go in there together, almost lockstep of, I'll take this side because this falls in my realm of responsibility, and as council, we take this side and we work on it because of the financial side, and we're working well in parallel, we can get the job done more effectively. And that's essentially, as president, I've tried to work. Now, keeping in mind the fact that we all have busy schedules, but there's no full-time. We have department heads that are full-time roles. Every one of our roles are legislatively considered part-time, although some spend more time around than others. And I'm not going to raise, it's not meant to be competitive or anything like that. It's just, some people are in the building in the evening, some people are there early in the morning, some are there all day. It is just there to be available, to take ideas, try to come up with a plan and work together. And that's my view.
Adam and I have had conversations about different things. I've taken upon myself the last 10 years to spend at least one day, sometimes 2 or 3, down State House during session to bring back questions. When I bring back information like I had for Senate Bill 1, how much money we're going to be losing, right away I informed all 7 council members through an email about what we're going to be missing. I spoke with the podium about that. I feel that's good information to pass on to you guys. So that's working together, I think.
Yeah.
To address your question kind of in a direct and roundabout way at the same time, traditionally, and this goes back way before any of us up here were serving, there was a kind of habit of looking at what the state law was. So in Indiana, we have a home rule. So home rule says that we can set pretty much whatever restrictions we want that are more tight than the state. So for example, when we're doing public works projects, you need 3 quotes if it's 50,000 to 150,000. You need sealed bids over 150. Well, that's the minimum, the bare minimum that the state requires. The local entities and municipalities can set higher standards if they'd like, and you see that in some communities around the state where they take that and they set those limits lower. I know one of the things Council President Kronka and I have talked about, and he suggested, was lowering that. Was lowering those thresholds from 50 and 150 down lower to encompass some of these other projects, because there's quite a few that have been coming in the past couple of years that are at that $40,000 mark, and they all, as winds up going to one preferred vendor sometimes. So I think what we have that we're dealing with here in LaPorte County that I would like to see us kind of get over is this tradition that we had of doing the bare minimum in LaPorte County, as far as the bare minimum towards following the state guidelines, things like this, things like that. We can, and I think we should. I would assume any of you out there that if you were going to have $45,000, let's say, worth of work done to your home or your property, you would get more than one quote. It just makes sense. Now, what level does that make or not make sense? I know the idea was floated around at $10,000 for getting 3 quotes. I think that's a pretty solid number. When we look at some of the contractual things that came up, for example, the sewer was mentioned. That under a prior county attorney's tenure, things were, sometimes when it comes to public works statute, things were a little fast and loose. And I think that kind of goes into that tradition of, if the attorney says it's okay, it's okay. And they're, our attorneys are there to provide us guidance and different things, but, when we look at LaPorte County doesn't have a direct municipal attorney that is their primary field of work, right? So as you go through different statutes, like when you go through the public works statutes and for emergency statutes, for example, right? So the sewer leak was an emergency, absolutely not an issue there. You start looking at what's a public works statute, what's an emergency. It says, well, is a sewer leak something that qualifies as an emergency that gets you around the 3 quotes for anticipation, let's say, of the $50,000 mark. But when you drill down into that statute and you start pointing at the other issues of what a public works project is, you actually really get down into the minutia and you start looking. You'll actually find, and granted, the 2 different attorneys, I guess, just didn't come across this statute when they looked at it, but you'll find that the state legislature contemplated the exact thing that happened out here next to the Hyler building. It said for construction or repair, and it lists a number of different things, including specifically sewer. So Councilman Keel was correct when he brought that up at a prior council meeting, that there should have been a second quote that was solicited. Now, again, it's not like you have to go for these quotes under emergency situations. It's not like you have to go and post it and spend, days waiting for a response. In that situation, the statute allows for you to pick up the phone, call company A and say, hey, how much for this? Hang up the phone, immediately call company B, say, hey, how much for this? Write down the 2. If you just wanted to call 2, which is the bare minimum according to that part of the statute, and then you make those 2 phone calls and then you move ahead. You had mentioned Councilman Novak, speaking of, the county, the commissioners sign the contracts. I think that is absolutely true. The commissioners do sign the contracts, but in the example of you have 2 commissioners that send a contract to the council, let's say, or an emergency or whatever it is. I think that the council does have at least some level of responsibility to look and make sure that it was properly procured. And I think the easiest example would be, just because you hand somebody a gun doesn't mean that they're forced to pull the trigger. They don't have to do it if they don't want to. So again, this goes back to something that's been a tradition, right? I'm not saying. What I'm saying is that we can do better and we should do better. And now that we've started taking these baby steps of progressions toward doing better, I'd like to see us continue to keep doing better, because it was a long tradition, and some of the laws and some of the statutes and rules have changed just in the past couple of years regarding these things. I think we can do better, and I think if we keep making a diligent effort to move forward, we'll be able to work together in a more harmonious manner between the various entities. Thank you.
Speaking broadly on the issue, without going into any specific project, I think we're not the first county to run into this sort of issue with confusion around public purchasing and public works projects. Lake County had a similar issue, and some years back they addressed it by creating a public purchasing manual that addresses it. It's a very detailed policy. It's actually award-winning. I believe it was AIC presented them with an award for how detailed and comprehensive this thing is. It takes time. Every time we have these arguments about public purchasing and competitive procurement, I think it's fair to say there's differing opinions on it. Probably the best path forward to prevent this from continually being a perennial issue is to adopt some sort of procurement manual so that we're all on the same page about what the rules are and we come to some sort of consensus about how we should proceed, so that we're not perpetually relitigating this. So that would be my take on it.
I know at the last council meeting, Mr. Beege said that he sent the letter out. 6 members of the council declared it was an emergency. President Karanka, President Grammarosa, they talked to the lawyers. It was declared an emergency. So to sit there, and then Mr. Beege also mentioned council member meeting before, sometimes all we even get is 1 bid in LaPorte County. But thankfully, since things have changed, the EMS bid we had seven for the RFQs, and the first pre-bid meeting on that building, we had 39 contractors here, and they've been asking questions about what's going on. That's the first time anybody that I know of can remember, I've talked to, can remember we've had that much interest in any project's been done in LaPorte County. So I think we've moved quite ahead, quite a bit.
Thank you for the discussion.
Good evening, everyone. Liz Bergeron, 1018 Providence Street. Again, thank you for having this. This is a great opportunity for us to come and ask questions. I have two questions. First, I'm going to start with, we know how dangerous 20 is. Now, that spans into Porter County, LaPorte County, St. Joe County. It's pretty much dangerous the entire way. Does the county have any plans or ideas on what they could do to make it safer in LaPorte County? We've had far too many accidents. We know what happened just recently. And if you drive down it, it can be really scary. I drive it for work, and it's really scary. So I was wondering if there were any ideas in motion, plans to make, at least in LaPorte County, 20 safer. I know that's going to cost money, and we're looking at a budget issue. So that kind of spans into my second question. Lots of drama, investors seeing that, especially at the meeting where there was an investor for KIP. So my second question is, Mr. Hollyfield, will you take this opportunity right now to apologize to Mr. Keel for calling him boy and showing our investors that we can all get along and it's good to come to LaPorte County and invest in LaPorte County?
No, I will not, because what I felt had to be said. I talked to that investor. He saw nothing wrong with it. The Econ Development Director said there's nothing to worry about. And as far as the US 20, in my opinion, I spoke with Representative Pressel. It is an issue. They are working on it. Again, it boils back to you could throw $1 billion at that road until people learn to pay attention to the road and what they're doing. There's not much they can do about that
There's
issue.
no roundabouts.
That's the
thinking?
state.
That's the state.
It's the state. You
Is
have
there
talked to-
anything we can do as a county, maybe more law enforcement?
Sheriff Heeg has informed us he's up there as much as he can.
Okay.
So,
Okay,
and I've
so-
seen him up there when I'm on track 20.
Okay, so no
and
apology. and-
Anyone else?
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks.
Well-
Yeah, thank you for bringing up 20. It's very personal for me. Excuse me. I saw that team about an hour before the accident, so it's pretty personal, and I know each one of them. Highway 20, unfortunately, is a state highway, but they do ask us for what our thoughts are. They also bring to us what they want to do with the highways. We don't really get a chance to bring to them. Sometimes they do. As some of the members here, and Mr. Keel will also say about Highway 30, if we talk about Highway 30, you know, there's been a long plan to go across the state, but we don't get that discussion right now on 20. Because of these accidents and because and it's not just this one, it's this one, excuse me.
I think we've all lost someone on 20. I myself, a couple years ago, lost a very dear friend's daughter on that road. And again, I think it was best said that is 20, 35, 39 are not county roads. They are state roads. We do work with our state representatives and senators. They have done some good work on it. We had a dog bone, I believe, installed probably in the early 2020s, right? When was the dog bone put in? Like around 21,
within the
maybe
last 5
22.
years.
So they are doing things to improve their roads, the state roads. They are doing things. I know that on the other end of the county, over at 6, they put in a 6 and 421, which is also state-owned roads. They were able to put in a roundabout. So I think that it's a consistent improvement on those roads. And if you would like to see kind of the things that they're doing, go to the NDOT website, and then you can probably see like some of the upcoming projects that they've got going.
Yeah. I think
Sorry,
No,
Mike.
I was going to only add that we're fortunate that the head of the Transportation Committee in the House of Representatives is Mr. Jim Pressel, one of our representatives, and he is constantly fighting for us on that side. So, so he sees it as well. He's not far from that area as well, where the accident, we'll call that runway, so to speak, area. So, and I'm glad you brought up about the dog bone, because that was one of the
Improvements.
I thought it was going to be ridiculous, and now here I am using it and saying I'm glad it's here.
Yeah.
Especially because that traffic light, I saw accidents when there used to be a traffic light underneath it. If people don't remember, it's hard to even remember it now.
Yeah.
So no, I wanted to thank you for bringing that up. And
On the topic of US 20, I know there was an enforcement blitz on US 20 about 2 or 3 weeks ago that the sheriff's office was running, so I know they take that seriously. As others have noted, it is a state highway, so and most of the projects, when they do improvements on state highways, are federally funded, meaning there's opportunities for you to comment with NERC, the Northwestern Indiana Regional Planning Commission, when they're soliciting funding, when they put out their 4-year plans to make that comment. You might also reach out to INDOT directly and encourage them to look into it, highlight problematic intersections. They have crash data, so they can take a look into that. So those are other ways that you might be able to participate and get their attention.
Adam Parkhouse he's in charge of this district for the INDOT. I've spoken with him several times over the last 6 months. He's a very great guy to work with. If you take and show him an issue, he'll look into it, do what he can. Mr. Pressel's the same way. Right now, as you all know, as it was spoken earlier about the battery plant and the Amazon east of here, that's going to be a big topic for the next several years. They're going to put a new Larison Road. They're not quite sure what. I think it's Divergent Diamond is what they're going to put in there. That's going to take some time, so it's going to be a while for that road 220, all that gets straightened out. But I think in the long run it will be better.
So I think that a lot of these. I know in Westville,
Could you introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm Heather Stevens, County Clerk, but I'm also a founding member of the South County Community Coalition. And at one point, they wanted to put a J-turn at the intersection of 39 and 30. And we were like, it was time for like pitchforks and torches. We were ready to go. And I think that what we need on 20 is somebody advocating for LaPorte County, saying, look, enough is enough. We have so many accidents, so many fatalities, and something has to be done.
Exactly, yes. That's what we need. We can work with other counties. I understand it's U.S. highway concern. I understand that it's going to take multiple counties to work together. So commissioners from LaPorte County could work with commissioners from Porter County and St. Joe County. Come up with ideas, advocate for us, because I have children that drive. We have friends and family that drive. To just sit there and go, well, Pressel's looking into it. It's not our road. While we have accidents happening is almost insulting to the people who are your bosses that pay your salaries, that we're just like, oh, well, 20 is really dangerous. Hope you don't get hurt today driving down it, but it's a state road. We can't do anything. We need someone to advocate for us so there's no more accidents, so we don't lose anyone. And it almost feels like it's a state road, can't do anything, wash our hands and be done. No ideas coming up, no looking into it, nothing. And it's insulting because Mr. Hollifield even said, we're the bosses. This is our county. This is our building. These are our roads. And we want our elected officials to represent us. And it's just really frustrating when you just get, oh, well, nothing we can do. It's not our
Actually,
thing. Work together.
Excuse me. I don't think we're saying that, and your comments now are very insulting to the people sitting up here. I
don't mean
think
it to
that
be
you do
insulting.
not know how much we get on the phone with people, how much he goes downstate. We are all talking about this. It is not that we are sitting still. We just mentioned to you some of the obstacles. One of the other things that's not mentioned, state police are shrinking, so they're not out there. Our county is now having to do more work on that. You heard from him. There was a blitz. We're doing things. Everybody's listening. So you're not saying, but what you just said to us is that we're saying things, oh, it's a state road. Yeah, it is a state road, but he just told you, we're talking to Adam Parkhouse.
Yeah,
We're talking to different people. So listen to what we're saying. We're not sitting down here and telling you we're doing nothing because it's not our road. That's not the case.
Yeah, US 20 is a very unique situation. Representative Pressel, and also Representative Doug Miller out of Elkhart. I spoke with both of them last session. They're doing what they can because there's a budget. I know you hate to hear that words, but there's a budget they have to follow, and the state also uses a 5-year plan. And right now they're going to do center turn lanes for another section of it, I believe. They feel that's the best with their studies. Now, in the US 30 project, I've been to several of those meetings down there in Awanata. I've been to Hannah, been to both places. The Propel 30 project, I love how they're doing it. They're involving the citizens. They're asking our opinions. They're asking what they feel, what they want. And as Heather said, the J-turn, in my opinion, is probably the dumbest thing anybody, an engineer, ever come up with. If you're going to drive a semi or a piece of farm equipment, it ain't ever going to work. I can guarantee you that. Or a school bus, same way.
Work with other counties
So-
that are affected by 20.
We've talked with other
and
ones.
so we come in strong with numbers and we can motivate.
I can tell you that helps, but I can also tell you the state's going to be an issue with their budget constraints.
Well, maybe citizens here in LaPorte County would want to form a citizen advocacy group and we can help move the process
You can
along.
do, yeah, we're more than welcome to listen to you. Dakota, you have something to say?
I just wanted to add, this is being recorded, correct? Okay. For the public's information, my name is Dakota Euler, LaPorte County's Weights and Measures Inspector. I travel throughout the county quite a bit, and so I do encounter state roads where there'll be traffic signals that are out or other issues. There is a phone number that you can call. I find myself doing it probably at least once a month. It is 855 NDOT, the number 4, and U. NDOT, the number 4, U. You can, no, just the letter U. And you can report concerns, any hazards or anything like that to the State Department. I believe they have about 48 hours and they have to respond. So if you have any concerns, I would imagine, numbers are powerful, so if people give them the information that's their concern, they'll listen to it. Thank you.
They are aware. Trust me, folks. When I talked to Adam Parkhouse, Mr. Pressel's informed me that this is probably not something you want to hear because it's in our backyard. That stretch of 20 is not the most dangerous section in the highway or the state. I know you don't want to hear that. I'm sure there's a dangerous spot in probably almost every county. So I know it's dangerous to us, but they have to go by what traffic studies and shows them, just like the US 30 project down there with the different divergent diamonds and all that. They're going down there based on their statistics about what they feel is the safest way to do it. And again, they've also got the money. We're making them aware of it. Trust me.
As a starting point, I'm happy to write an email to the Deputy District Commissioner of NDOT, Mr. Deitchley, and ask him to give us a list of all of the forthcoming projects that are planned for US 20, and then we can take a look at those and see whether there are already safety improvements that are part of those projects or whether there's the opportunity for additional safety improvements that could be included. And maybe that would give us a starting point of how we can focus our efforts.
You send emails, let them know. But again, the issue they're going to do at Larison Road out there, that's going to be at least a 2-year project when they start that. And NDOT, according to Mr. Pressel, they do a 5-year plan. So right now they're doing the next 5-year plan, and US 20 is getting some work done on it. Work's been done on that road, I believe, the last 3 or 4 years with their center turn lane. They had the property to acquire out there. They did the dog bone, as Commissioner Grammarosa talked about.
And that dog bone, I mean, there were lots of us. I believe me and Mike were at quite a few of those meetings. And there were some people out in the audience that I know that I remember seeing their faces at those. So, I mean, we did have input on a lot of those different projects.
And they do listen, especially with that Propel 30 project. They're listening to us.
Mm-hmm. We were just down at a meeting less than a month ago.
Yep.
So, unfortunately, we don't run up here and maybe we're not going and telling folks exactly what it is that we're doing, but we are out there and we are advocating.
If you don't tell us, how do we know? If you guys if you don't share what you're doing with us, we don't know. So then you get the rumors. They're not doing this. They're not doing this.
Well, we're telling you now.
Yeah, and
Tell us more often. Keep us updated.
That's why I instigated this meeting. I think it's turning out well. I want to have more. Like I said, I want to put one in the Michigan City area. I want to put one in the South County area, and I also put one in the eastern part of the county. And hear your concerns. We know there's a junkyard issue in some neighborhoods. We know that for a fact. Now that we know your concerns are US 20, so we know those are major concerns. Now that you've brought them to our attention, we'll continue to focus on them. And like I said, I've been going to State House for 10 years. My friends asked me to take questions down there. I've been on sound off for probably over a decade. not all those questions are mine. A lot of those are from my neighbors and friends that asked me to bring up questions to ask people on the radio. So
The residents,
that-
we just want to know what's
Yeah.
going on, what our elected officials are doing or aren't doing. Kind of
Okay.
like how you would give your boss your check-ins, your
Yep.
progress reports. That's what we want. And it
And
would be
that-
good to know what's going on.
and keep coming to the meetings and asking us questions. Anyone else? Do you have any more questions from the audience?
Good evening, Al Stevens, Hannah, Indiana. I've heard these folks speak tonight, and I genuinely feel your pain. We've got a house one door over that's got 20 cars. It's got skid loaders. It's got skid loaders with the cabs off, laying on the ground next to them. They've got horses that are which there's another thing that needs to be looked into is these people that got 2 acres and got 5 horses. The horses
That would be
are
BZA.
they're wading in the mud.
BZA.
I mean, the fence has fallen down, and he just pushes another junk vehicle in front of the hole in the fence. So I feel your pain, but I don't think a zoning a new
code enforcement.
I don't think that's the answer. We have so many laws on the books now with Mike's building department, with the health department, with junk vehicles. Let's enforce the laws we have on the books now instead of making another department with more laws that we're not going to enforce. Let's enforce what we have.
The horse and animal issue, depending on the acres, because you have to have a variance. Is that correct, Mike? You have to have a variance for so many acres, and then that'll also be if it's a malnutrition issue. That would be something you bring up with animal control shelter.
I mean, they're out there wading in the water every time it rains, and it's a disgusting mess. So I empathize with you guys having a bad neighbor. I think I heard you guys say you're in subdivisions. So I just thought of it sitting there, and Guy, you're an attorney. I mean, what about like covenants in the subdivision? Do you have any recourse to go against them for violating covenants? That could go faster than government goes.
Never a homeowners organization. There are covenants, but they were never organized. So the covenants that were in the Pine Brook subdivision were never organized. There was never a homeowners association put together because nobody wanted to be the bad guy. And so this is what the results of that.
Same with Orchard Estates. Same with Orchard Estates.
And actually, the nuisance sites that we're talking about are not in the subdivision. Well, the one is. The guy that's got 20 cars, he does live in the subdivision. The junkyard's not in the subdivision. We have a guy up the street that's running 3 calves, a pig, and a goat on a. I don't know how big this. It can't be more than 2 acres. You have to have one. I read the ordinances this morning. You have to have 1 acre for each cow. So he's
that's
not to mention the pigs and the goats.
Of pasture, you actually need a little bit more than that.
And then we have a guy that's got a car repair facility. He bought a house and it was owned R1A, single family dwelling, and he turned it into a car repair shop. And he's building a new. Well, he was repairing cars in his driveway for a long time. You know, when you have a car repair shop, those cars, people don't always come and get them because they can't afford to pick them up. So then you have these old cars that accumulate on the property. And now he's building a new building. I assume it's a shop. And don't you have to have a permit to build a building?
Yes,
There's a cement pad there, but there's no sign of a permit anywhere on the property.
And he would also have
so
to
these guys are all outside the subdivision, except the one.
Now, Mike, can you think of anybody that we've been fighting for several years about running a business in a residential area, and how many years that took to get us issued?
Yeah, you can't operate a business in a residential area. Now, there are exceptions. There are things that qualify as a home occupation, so people are going to try that route. But our ordinance is published online, so anybody in this room, anybody, home gamers watching this at home, Anybody can pull that up, peruse it, and say, oh, they're in this. Here's the ordinance violation. Here's exactly what they're in violation of. You send that to us. You send us photos and evidence, and that's going to get dealt with faster than us hearing two sides of a story with not sufficient evidence of an ordinance being violated. Now, to talk about covenants and restrictions, that those fall under private civil litigation. The county doesn't involve themselves in that, but you do have recourse for ones that are active and even ones that are not active. I'll give you a specific example of a case that we had in a subdivision. I think it was Decker's Woods. There was somebody started operating a dirt track. And then there were people coming and motorbikes, and there was zooming around, and it was loud, and it was disruptive to the whole neighborhood, and everybody got together, and they filed a civil nuisance claim, and they won, and they got it shut down. Now, the county can't always inject themselves into that on your behalf because we'll lose the case because we have a lack of standing. There's been a legal precedent for that. But the people that are the neighbors around there that are affected by it, they do have legal standing. So that's maybe more of a legal question. I'll stop there because that's getting out of my bailiwick. But it's just something that I've dealt with, and I'll share with you because there's multiple avenues that you can pursue at the same time to get some relief for the issues that you're facing.
So one thing. Oh, go ahead. So one thing to add, both to Mr. Stevens and everyone from the, I want to say, the Pine Brook subdivision area. When we talk about code enforcement, and if we were to look at seriously going forward with improving what we have for code enforcement, we're not talking about adding more laws or adding more ordinances or code or anything like that. It's exactly as you stated, enforcing the ordinances and the laws that we currently have. Because as Mr. Pullen stated, as Mr. Daly stated, there are different lines in the JZO that covers many of these conditions. When it comes to operating the business, when a business is red tagged and they are forced to come before the Board of Zoning Appeals, the concerns of somebody doesn't pick up their car if they're working on a car and they're asking for a variance to have a garage in their neighborhood, right? All of those concerns are brought up as a condition of the variance if it were granted. They give us all the information, not us anymore, I'm not on the board, but when I was, they would give us all the information as we asked the questions, and then there were 5 people on that board that would vote yay or nay. And what is heavily listened to is the remonstrance, and those comments sound exactly like, as you stated just now, is the concerns and the passion for wanting to maintain your property and have your neighbors show you the respect by maintaining their property the way that you maintain yours. So I got very long-winded. The biggest point I want to come across is we're not talking about more laws and more restrictions. It would be the fact that such an action of bringing on more code enforcement would be enforcing what we have.
I have to agree to that. Like I said, we've, way too many laws in this country no matter what. And that's why government's gotten so big and cumbersome. The issues with these your houses with those cars and junkyards and everything else, I talked with a person the other day, Wednesday, because they had an issue with the BZA decision. And I told them, I asked Mr. Pullen, he gave me the idea of how, well, not the idea, but the concept of how the appeal system works. And he said it starts with the circuit court. They have to go file a complaint there. And he suggested the easiest way is for an attorney, so that way the paperwork is done correctly. And the people says, well, that's an added expense. And I suggested, well, you said another neighbor has an issue. Perhaps the two of you get together and split the cost attorney. And several of you are in the same area with the same house complaints and everything else. That may be an issue for you guys to take together. And it's money. It's going to cost you money. But as been stated, it becomes a civil issue. We can't enforce ordinances when it becomes a civil issue between neighbors like that on personal property and private property rights and your property lines. It becomes civil, so it may be a deal where you have to band together with your neighborhood, get yourself an attorney to and split the cost 4 or 5 different ways.
and I didn't mean to get everybody riled back up about building codes and problems, but the main reason I came up is I'd like to ask the three commissioners to check, in the next week, take a ride down to Hannah and ride down Thompson Street, which was repaved last summer, and especially you get down more towards the intersection with Old 30, and it's delaminating, it's unraveling. Most of the road is white and very gray, and I think that leads to a bigger problem. Is we have two asphalt contractors that are bidding the county work. Mm-hmm. We got Milestone, which used to be Walsh Kelly, and you got Reith Riley, who gets the bid every year. Milestone bids these contracts, the community crossings and the county paving contract. Milestone, the old Walsh Kelly, they bid it with NDOT spec asphalt, and Reith Riley bids it what they call quote unquote commercial mix, which don't meet NDOT spec. And I think when you hear everybody complaining about the roads that are a year old and they're coming unraveled and they're white and they're gray and the seams are splitting apart, I think it's because we're not bidding apples and apples here. We're bidding apples and oranges. We're bidding, of course, Milestone is going to be higher because they're using NDOT spec asphalt. They're using NDOT spec emulsion. They're using NDOT spec rock and stone in the asphalt when they make it, and it's under state quality control, whereas Reith Riley is bidding their quote commercial mix, and it's in my opinion it's garbage. It's yard cleanup. It's shredded shingles and tires and tons of asphalt millings and whatever else they can throw in to get rid of it to sell a cheap mix, and it's really kind of all of us as taxpayers that end up paying the price. So I'd say just take a good look at Thompson Street. That speaks volumes. It's ghost white. It's coming unraveled, and maybe look in the future of making it apples and apples or oranges and oranges, where everybody's bidding NDOT state spec asphalt. So that's my big concern here, is that we're not getting a good bang for our buck. There's one contractor that wins year after year. They always win because they're bidding, in my opinion, a lesser material.
I will agree on that to a point. Years past, it's not been like that. So it's something that's just happened recently, I think. And I will reach out to the state and get their specs and talk to Cherry at the highway department.
If you look at the contracts for the past several years, they call it Reith Riley calls it commercial mix, and if everybody's bidding commercial mix, that's fine, or everybody needs to bid NDOT state spec material. So.
Is there a specific name for that spec? Just spec material, state spec?
Yeah, it's just you can look at NDOT HMA spec for. Okay. 12.5 surface or 9.5 surface.
You said HMA, correct?
That's hot mix asphalt. Hot mix asphalt, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I got the right acronym.
Yeah, I know a little bit about it. I'm certified from NDOT in I'm a hot mix asphalt certified technician. So I notice it when we're driving down the road and we're hitting rough spots or bumps, and I'm telling my wife, oh yeah, that's where they took a sample, or that's where they switched trucks. And she's like, well, number one, I don't care, but how do you know that? And I said, well, it's kind of what I do for a living, have done for a while. So
let me reinforce the first part. She doesn't care.
The council, take a look at it too, so you can see where the money's going.
Will do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we take core samples of our paving jobs afterwards? And
yes, they do.
Okay,
Some
so
years we have not. Some years we've said we were going to do it and then we didn't. So I mean, it's been very inconsistent.
Okay. I think that this year we've got Lockmuller Group watching the community crossings, and John Smith was on that job daily. I mean, he even responded in emails to all of us that, oh, hey, we got a quarter of inch of rain, we're done, and he let us know what was going on a day-to-day basis. So I think that was money well spent. Keep an eye on things.
Yeah, community crossings grants require that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So maybe something we have to look at for other road paving projects. Do we have any other questions from the audience? Mr. Callis. George, I'm sorry.
I made the mistake of Sir,
Sir
and
and-
Mr. last night, so.
So it's Sir George.
I'm going to have to hang my head low because I'm old enough to know better. I apologize to everybody for my language last night. I'm old enough to know better. It's just mouth open, brain didn't engage. Okay, so I just want to do that first of all. And then again, I said another thing to our commissioners that I guess, no, not I guess, now I know I didn't know what I was talking about. Can you give me a quick, simple explanation what an RFP is? Just a,
RFQ.
There's both.
no, there's a difference, right?
Yes, there's a difference.
Okay.
So
There-
RFQ is request for qualifications. That's what we sent out for the EMS base.
I thought it was
It was misprinted in the agenda.
thank you, that's, okay, but I thought it was a request for proposals.
No, it was labeled as an RFP on the agenda. What we actually sent out was what's called, trust me, I had to learn this all stuff through the last 6 months. It's a request for quotes or qualifications. And that, they send in packets that says, this is what my company can do, why we're qualified to look at this. Am I correct, Adam?
Well, there's both, right? So you have RFQ as a request for qualification and request for quote. Request for quote is more commonly used, and that's when you're actually asking for a price or a cost. But the request for qualification is finding out, in this case, you were trying to select a vendor for designing the EMS space and running the project.
Okay, so what do the commissioners do? They pick up 5 people, say, here's a piece of paper, what can you do with this piece of paper? How can you expand it to what we need? Is that what you do?
We put the bids out, correct, for the request. And then once we got them, we all looked at them. I think some council members looked at them. Eric Fenstermaker and his captains and his second in command. They're the ones that are going to be stuck with this building for years and years and years. They made the decision who we got. They picked the top 3. Now, if the way I understand it, and that could be incorrect if I am, someone tell me, they now will negotiate with the first one to come up with a plan and a price to do that, and then we'll proceed forward with the, if they choose them and they're happy with them and the price, they will then proceed to become a bid to build the project, because the RFQs are going to get a blueprint design.
So the people you went to first have a plan. They're going to say, we need 10 rooms, we need 5 bays, we need a kitchen, and they put it all on a big piece of paper as a drawing.
Yep.
No complex thing. When everybody agrees on that, then it goes to an architect to go for complexity.
I'm not going to overstate on this one.
Why don't we refer it back to the attorney? Would you
I
like
don't
to
wanna
explain
make this a
that to
big
us?
deal. I don't want to.
Because I don't want to pretend to be an attorney.
What the people at the EMS already know what they want.
Correct.
They need 10 rooms, they need a captain's room, they need that.
Correct.
And so then the folks who's going to do the design, they understand the county's needs. So if you heard the EMS folks, they said one of the reasons why they chose the number one person to actually look at this is because they have a plan where they could potentially do it where you don't have to go out and buy and rent another building and retrofit another building like we did with the courthouse at Brown Mackey, which could be $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 onto the expense. So then they understand what the county's needs are, and then they will go ahead and give certain schemes, diagrams as to what might work. Once that's determined, then it goes out to the bidding process. You get plans, it goes out to the bidding process, and then vendors will be able to bid on the project, the actual build of the project. So the company that got if we end up coming to an agreement as to the RFQ, they're going to be like a manager, a project manager, to make sure that the vendor that's going to build is actually going to do the build the way we want. Make sure the pricing's correct. Make sure that things along those lines. Does that make sense?
I know what he's going to say.
So what they're gonna put it all on paper.
And then it's going to go out
And then
bid.
it's gonna go out to an architect to make sure
No, they will do.
they will
the
do everything.
plans.
They will know what size beams to make, what size bricks to use, what kind of mortar to use, what kind of, they'll have it all done when they return it to the commission.
Yes, and then when it goes out to bid, then the contractors know what size the beams are, how much mortar, all the stuff that you're just talking. That's how they're able to price it.
So in other words, if they come up with a figure that everybody agrees on, they're the boss.
Well,
They're the project
who's they?
manager.
Right. So they're right. So they would be the liaison between the contracting company or the builder and the county, because
And 590 people in this county, we don't have one person that can be the county, that can be a boss. I'm just talking, I'm not trying to.
I don't.
I've never built an EMS base, and I'm not sure anyone in the 590 ever has either.
I know that Larry Lewandowski was very instrumental in when we built the one out in Roland Prairie. But he came from a ton and blank background, and he was in that field.
Well,
We
we
don't
do.
have. I don't believe we have somebody right now in that position.
All we gotta do is copy Rolling Prairie.
No, that's what we tried. It didn't
Yeah.
work.
It did not work.
We
it
tried
was a
to do
mess.
that.
Yeah, we had about 25 disgruntled contractors here for the pre-bid meeting, and we were not prepared as we thought we were going to be with a person that was supposed to do that, and so that's why we moved on and we went this way, because you have to be able to get somebody a blueprint, so that way they can figure out, as Guy said, how many I-beams do I need, how many tons of concrete, yards of concrete, stuff like that, bricks, and how to do that and build this, and especially since we're not going to be able to go out and rent another building, because outside of Brown Mackey and the courthouse, we also did that once with the LaPorte EMS base, where we rented out there behind Eggebrecht, behind the old TG&Y store. And we poured a lot of money into that building, and then when we're done, they just said thank you for fixing our building up. So there's a method to this madness. Coming from the outside world, trust me, George, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense in the beginning, but the final project does.
We sure got a lot of middlemen in this county, but that's beside the point. My last thing, so I don't take everybody else's time, is everybody hear, or is it just my old age? Do we need new? I can hear that microphone perfect, but all these other microphones I have trouble hearing. Or is it we're not close enough? We're not talking? I don't
Hello?
know. Do we need to spend another couple thousand and get these fixed, or I don't know? Or is it I need to spend a couple thousand for this?
Part of it could be
go
we
ahead.
take the habit of trying not to be right on top of the mic, because a few of us who will remain nameless, but he's not here tonight, has a really bad habit of making his piece pop on the mic. Basically, where it's very loud cracking noise when they try to speak. And we all try to take that habit to be clear, but not obnoxious into the mic. Now,
Where's
am
the
I louder than what I was?
The speaker? Is that it?
There's a speaker there. There's two
They're
in the back.
in the back corners.
There?
In there, and back corners, too.
Well, maybe they work it out. I better go have my ears checked again. Okay.
George, I'm going to tell you that since in the 6 years and now 7th year, this has been upgraded once, and there's conversation going on right now about another upgrade. So we really appreciate the comment, but if you're having trouble, early in the meeting, say something, because we can always get a little closer.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's and
Can I look at Connie, not you hear five guys, or whatever the hell?
And don't also forget, besides the microphones, all these buildings require maintenance on an annual basis. And Adam and Justin can tell you, the buildings are becoming, I consider, a nuisance. But they're having to be updated and upgraded. And
Okay, well,
so we got
I'm
to pick and
going to be
choose.
quiet and let everybody else get a chance. If nobody else wants to talk, I'll come back for more, okay?
Okay. You're
Thank
welcome
you.
to it, sir.
No,
Come
I'm
on
not.
up, Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy Kolovic, 1316 Ohio Street, Michigan City again. I know Mr. DiMartino recently just mentioned Ton and Blank Construction. There is good news about that. They are now the owner of the majority of the Marquette Mall property
Correct.
in Michigan City. They closed on that back on May 7th, so hopefully we'll see some progress going on there and helps to get some commerce going back there, whatever they plan on developing in there. I think it's going to be like a mixed-use development is what they're planning. I'd like to know when are we actually going to see the construction of the EMS base begin on Cool Spring Avenue where the old fire station was that you took over?
You just heard about that. We're doing the RFQs, and then it'll go out for bids. I'm not going to give a date because when I gave a date for the project in the Hyler building, things changed, and that took longer than they thought because
You have a site plan for the 8th and Wabash property.
I mean, I'm not even sure where that's at, I'll be honest.
That's the
The old county annex building.
So currently, I mean, we still use
Go out
it.
there when you went into the new courthouse renovation.
Yeah.
Actually, Mayor Perry wanted you to give that to the city in exchange for waiver fees on the courthouse renovation, but we don't need that. You know, don't let the city have that, please. It'll be another 6 and Wheeler, like the old substation they got over there. We got enough property. City's got enough properties they can't do nothing with. And don't let the city take over the cemetery grounds at the prison. And it needs to become the LaPorte County Pioneer Cemetery, like the council talked about. We got all kinds of problems with our cemeteries. I think really don't want to go into that.
I will be on a cemetery tour with the Pioneer Society at the 6th of June,
Yeah, but
and I will bring that up to them.
Have
see
them
what they
take
say.
over the cemetery at the prison grounds. Thank you.
Do anybody else have a question this evening? George, you want to come back up?
Did anybody go over the list?
Come forward, sir.
Did anybody go over the list I asked you to go through for vehicles, that we have way too many vehicles in this county?
I thought I sent that back to you.
No. If you did, I
Okay.
overread it. I mean, does anybody agree that we have too many vehicles? Does anybody disagree? Or, I mean, I'm not saying just junk them right now, but let's not replace them.
So if you recall from last night's council meeting, we were talking about the use of the truck that EMA currently has, potentially going to 911. 911 currently has a tabled request for a vehicle in order for the assistant director who has tools and equipment that maintains a lot of the towers and equipment for the 911 system.
Correct.
He's needing something that's not as well worn as the vehicle he currently has and is more appropriate for hauling tools and equipment. A 1-ton pickup doesn't make sense for that application, but a 6-cylinder half-ton pickup that has 60,000 miles might be a good option. So it's using what we have.
So Sabies can go to 911, and Sabi can have a new one.
Potentially.
Potentially, if the council agrees to it.
Or we could take a big truck that nobody's using except for whatever, and replace that.
If there's
I don't want to
another
start trouble,
resource,
but I'm just bringing it up.
Okay. So
That's another $50,000 you could save and fix microphones.
and much appreciated, because you're right, because during our council meeting, right, we're talking about, are we funding it or are we not, based off what we have. The commissioners own the resources, right? They own the buildings, they own the equipment for the most part. This is an opportunity to mention to where, is there an idea where there's a 1-ton truck that is currently limitedly used or not used because of staffing or otherwise, it could be freed up for EMA, so where we don't have to
And actually,
appropriate
we
money.
don't, because when you look at it, a lot of the vehicles that we received, they're coming from the sheriff's department. We take the recycled sheriff's department vehicles, and they don't drive around 1-ton vehicles.
No, I understand, but it's more of an open-ended question.
Yeah.
Look
No.
what our
And
fleet
it-
has.
Yeah.
Right. And then,
I just
Now,
wanted to see if anybody.
One thing I will say that I've noticed, a lot of them come up here and say, well, it's got 100,000 miles on it.
That'll mean nothing.
I've got a truck that's got 450,000 miles on it. It goes to Indianapolis 3 out of the last 4 years.
Oh,
So vehicles can last longer. But then you also have to look at some things, what they're going to be doing. Like last night, they discussed about the vac truck for the county highway. Used heavy equipment, to find a good one at a reasonable price is very hard to do. And the amount that it's going to do with that, I think in the long run, will be better with the new vehicle.
Okay, I just wanted to see if anybody even
It's
thought
aware.
about it.
We're
Because if you knock
looking
off-
at it.
If you knock off 10 trucks, and another thing is we had 550 employees in January. Now we have 590. Did I hear that properly by Mr. Novak?
Yesterday.
You talked about people on the insurance plan. We have even more employees than that.
Oh,
So
Never mind.
it's a different question, just to make sure you understand that it was a different question.
I
believe the number's around 650. plus part-time.
650 employees.
Yep.
And we don't have nobody that can manage a fire department. I know, not your department, I understand. That's
I don't know me.
550 people, we have, how many engineers work for the
I think George is offering.
George, would you like
Would
a
to be a
job?
project manager?
George,
George don't have an idea what kind of bricks to use or nothing, but I'm just saying, there must be somebody, never mind. I think I made my point.
Yes, you did, sir. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Your words are always heated. I know you will. But see, that's how I got started, George. That's how I got started, coming up here and speak at these meetings.
I should never have come, I should have stayed home.
Do we have, well, it's quarter till, and I would like to wrap this up and allow us to each have a closing comment. So, Adam, we'll start with you.
Okay. First off, Steve, thanks for coordinating this. I'm not sure who had the original idea. I just know that a lot of the correspondence came from you. So I appreciate having this open forum and open discussion. I also appreciate not only the questions, but the passion behind them, right? What are the concerns and why are you concerned? That's for what I do in my profession. I can tell people what to do for instructions, but then understanding the why is really what helps drive their understanding and their urgency to do the job properly. And us as being the paid servants to the taxpayers, we need to understand the why on a regular basis. And this is one of those situations, and I very much appreciate it. Thank you for coming and participating.
Mike?
And I'm going to ditto a lot of things he said. Thank you, Steve, for organizing. Thank you for everybody here because the participation. I didn't have a lot of questions to answer. I'm okay with that. I also want to thank a lot of the points that were raised, even the comments, and even where it's a little back and forth stuff. I think there's a lot of good points. Someone talked about communication, wanting more communication. That point, we hear that, and there's, one of the hardest things to do is get enough of this communication out. People try. Sometimes we don't do well enough, so it was good to hear that we may not be doing well enough on one of those issues. But the passion and the concern about your neighborhood, I hope you're walking away with some answers. You may not always like the answers, but there's also, you've heard now, there's if you haven't been speaking with Mike before, there's a resource there. So I do appreciate that, and I'm just going to end and say thank you for a good evening.
Connie?
I'd just like to, thank you again, Steve, because Steve did put this together. I didn't know how well this town hall was going to work out, and I hope that people out in the audience see this and that we get people that really do have issues, would like to come out here, would really like to talk to us and get their answers. I would agree we don't always have the answers up here, but if we don't know what some of the problems are out in the county, we can't address them. Today, I was out in another subdivision. I take phone calls, and you really don't even have to wait to the town hall meetings because we get phone calls into the office, or we have folks just calling us individually, and we go out there and we're able to resolve a lot of the issues on a day-to-day basis. If we don't know what's going on, we can't address it, but if you come to us, we can usually work with all the different departments. I myself call Mike probably 2-3 times a month, and we're running and we're looking at different locations and trying to figure things out. So please, to all the audience that's out there and watching this, don't hesitate to give us a call, figure things out. I'd like to put my number out there, 219-221-7326. I am really good about answering the phone, going out there and meeting you at your sites and trying to figure out what it is that you need and what we can fix, and then hook the actual person up with the right department. So please don't hesitate to call. Thank you.
Joe?
I'd like to echo a lot of what everyone else has said. Thank you everybody for coming out tonight, and our phone lines are always open. Our email inboxes are always open, and as are our office doors. So please don't hesitate to reach out to any of us anytime to get any of your questions or concerns answered. Like I said, you don't have to wait for any of those meetings. And it was great to see a good turnout tonight, and hopefully these will continue down the line. Thank you.
Justin?
Yeah, to echo everything they said, thank you all for coming tonight. I did want to give a quick update. I texted Mr. Parkhouse from INDOT while we were sitting here, and he already wrote back. He said he's driving, but he would voice to text a message about US 20 and some of the work that they're doing. He writes, going back several years, we added center lane edge line rumble strips throughout the corridor. We also built the interchange at 20 and 2. We already built a couple center lane turn projects and have a few more yet to come, including some happening this year. All of this has trended crashes downward overall, though we obviously still see bad crashes. The center turn lane project will certainly help a lot to reduce many of those crashes. With all those projects, we've invested well north of $50 million throughout this corridor to improve safety. The big projects being built now and over the next 2 years are those center turn lane projects where they are widening the road. There will be nearly continuous center turn lane throughout the corridor except for a few stretches. So thank you to Mr. Parkhouse for the quick responsiveness and some of that. I'll still follow up with an email so we can get more specifics on exactly what those projects are that are going to be happening in the future.
Cool. Thanks, Justin.
I would like to say thank you for everyone that's coming out. And I see partway late, as usual, Mr. Schultz, our assessor, showed up in the audience. Thank you for coming. All the other elected that showed up, I want to thank you for coming. Department heads, Mike Pullen, you might even have to sit up here next time. I hope to put more of these together. So listen to the radio station, go to the newspaper. My number is 219-304-3164. I've got cards with me. If you want my cards, as our emails on it too, I'll give you that. And like I said, keep telling us what you want, tell us what you see, especially with your complaints here in a subdivision. And as Mike echoed before, and Alan said, coming from the private sector into the government, it's an eye-opening experience. I mean, in the private sector, you basically tell somebody what they're going to do. And here, you've got to go through all sorts of paperwork. And so I want to thank you for coming. Keep your eyes and ears open for the next one. And I want to keep doing these because I think this one turned out pretty good. Thank you.